Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel, and we are back with a review of a game I am really excited to share with you guys, and this is The Walking Dead Surrounded. Now this is coming to us from Button Shy Games and is of course set in the Walking Dead universe. And in case you're totally unaware of what that is, it is a hugely popular zombie franchise with started as a graphic novel, a TV show, spin-off show, video games, other board games, and there's a lot of Walking Dead content out there. Now this is designed by Mr. Buttonshy himself, Jason Tagmeyer, with a lot of the art being drawn from the comic books. But I'm a big fan of the small 18-card Buttonshy games, so to see this property condensed, I was really excited to see how they were going to capture that feeling or that essence of that world in such a small package. Now, is it going to succeed in doing that, or is it going to feel like a bad Season 6 cliffhanger? Let's find out. And so like all Button Shy games, this is going to be made up of just 18 cards. One side of the card is going to have a location, and so every location is going to have a title. Some of them are going to be recognizable to locations that are in the comics. It could have a location ability, and you're going to see this little icon on the top right. And this is a bonus if you surround the location. And as the name implies, your main goal of this game is going to be playing out these different cards and trying to surround them with occupants. So when you start the game, you're going to take the top location and you're going to start your grid of cards with this first location. And then you immediately flip over the next card to its occupant side. And so every occupant side is going to have walkers, which are these red X's, or it could have survivors, or it could even have leaders, which we'll see in a little bit, that have a little star icon. And so when you first explore a new location, you have to connect a walker, right? There's some danger to exploring a new location. So I could either put it here so that this walker is occupying this location, or I could put it down here so that this walker is occupying the location. But this one counts as two X's, which I probably don't want to deal with. So I'm going to go ahead and put this one here. So now I have my starting location, I have my starting occupancy card. Normal play of the game will proceed from here. Now, on your turn, you could do one of two things. You could either explore a location, which is taking the top location of the deck and putting it on a connecting occupant, or I could flip this over to the occupant side and connect an occupant to an existing location. Now, keep this in mind, it has to be like a checkerboard pattern. You can never have locations next to other locations, and you can never have occupants next to other occupants. So I'm going to take this card and flip it over to the occupant side. So now I can connect any side of this card to an existing location. So I could put that here, I could put that over here, or I could do this even if I wanted to, but obviously spawning walkers onto locations are not going to be good at the end of the game. So I'm going to go ahead and stick that here. And you'll also notice that there are a couple different abilities that some survivors have. And so when a survivor is added to an existing location, you're able to resolve this ability here. So this look one here would let me look at the top card of the top or the bottom of the deck and look at both sides of it to help with planning a little bit. So knowing that, I'm going to take this card and I'm going to put it back on the top of the deck, but I'm going to explore now. And what exploring is adding the top location somewhere on your grid of cards. I have two existing survivors here, that's pretty good, and so I'm going to add the city park right here. Now, like I said before, there is danger to exploring. If you do add a new location, you immediately take the next card in the deck, flip it over, and you have to connect a walker if possible. So here, I can connect this occupant card to the new location so that this walker is there. Unfortunate, but again, that is a risk of adding new locations. You're going to do this back and forth and continue laying cards out until you complete this deck and you have kind of a grid of locations and occupants in different areas. So I went ahead and laid out a couple more cards here just to give you an idea of how the scoring works and how these different elements are going to play with each other when you actually get to the scoring portion of the game. And so after you finish laying out your entire map, you're going to look at each location and you're going to resolve walker combat. And the way that works is real simple, where you're going to look at how many walkers are connected to a location, and then every survivor, or every human can kill one walker. So let's look at the city park here, where we have one walker. So this human would take out this walker, and so we are left with our leader, which has the star icon, and one survivor. Survivors are going to be worth 1 point after resolving that. So this city park would be worth 1 point, and leaders are also worth 1 point. So there we would have 2 points. And leaders are special because they also score 1 additional point for every remaining survivor after resolving combat. So then this would be worth 1 point. So we'd have 3 points total. 1 for our remaining survivor, 1 for the leader, and then 1 additional point from the leader because this person is still alive. Now, leaders come at a little bit of a double-edged sword. Now, if you have 2 leaders at the same location, they eliminate each other, right? You have that kind of power struggle, they're not getting along, and they're going to eliminate each other and not score any points. So you never want to have more than 1 leader connected to a location. However, you'll also notice that these locations sometimes have additional effects. If we look at Alexandria here, leaders do not battle each other. So there's still ways to manipulate some of the rules of the game depending on how you place out these locations, which is really neat. Now let's look at this location up here, the suburbs, where we have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 walkers, which is not good. These poor people of the suburbs are going to get devoured. So we'll look here, we have 1 survivor, 2 survivor. So those 2 survivors would kill these 2 walkers, but we still have 2 remaining walkers left. And what that means is that a location is overrun. And all that means is that you score -1 point for every walker remaining here. So the suburbs would be -2 points for us at the end of the game. Now there's one more thing I need to mention about how you score at the end of the game, and it is in the title of the game, Walking Dead Surrounded. You're also going to notice that a lot of these locations have this icon in the top right. And what that means is that if you surround the location, which means you have at least 1 occupant on every edge of the card, you're going to gain that bonus. So in this case, you would have this little weapons, you would gain these weapons, this is just 1 point at the end of the game. There's a couple other examples here. You can see you have weapons, medicine here, and sometimes you just have a whole bunch of points. So this one, if you surround it, is +3 points. But you'll notice a lot of these locations are going to have harsher effects to make it even harder to surround those locations. So again, you're going to be able to score points on remaining survivors, score points from your leaders, lose points for walkers that are left over, and also score for surrounding locations that have an icon in the top right. Now you might be wondering, what's the point of having those different icons? And that's where this really neat scenario book comes that is included with the game, and it just kind of includes some different ways to play, different win conditions when you're playing. So for example, there might be one that says surround 2 locations that have gas containers. And so not only are you trying to score points, you also need to make sure that you're trying to place locations with those specific items to actually get the win condition for that specific scenario. And this is really my favorite way to play. I love just picking one of these at random and just kind of giving you a little more direction of when you're playing. And there's a lot of interesting ways to play here. There's conditions where you need to get certain items, having to explore a certain amount of times, having your map be at least 5 cards wide. It just has a lot of those interesting ideas that a lot of great button shy, tile laying, card laying games have, where those different win conditions really force you to really think and make it more of a puzzle. So it is very fun just sandbox, laying it out, trying to get a high score. But I feel like that scenario book really elevates it to a game where it really feels like it's a little more focused and honed in, which is great. And if you guys are enjoying the video, please consider liking and subscribing and joining the channel. I cover a lot of button shy games, I cover a lot of horror games, and I just like talking about all types of board games. So if you're enjoying the video, please consider joining. Now, back to our review. From a Walking Dead standpoint, I think there's a lot of nice little touches that make it feel tied in with that source material. A lot of the location effects feel very appropriate. If we look at Alexandria here, which is an important location in the show where you have a lot of the main characters congregating, that's an area where leaders don't battle each other, right? It makes sense that they would all be there and they're not going to fight each other, which is really cool. There's a couple other locations that feel like little winks and nods to the source material, which I really appreciate. And of course the art on these cards is taken directly from the comic books, but I like to see that comic book art used in the game. I feel like a lot of Walking Dead properties are really kind of tied to the AMC show and less so with the comic books. So to see it used in this game is really nice. And I think that one little twist of how leaders score really shows that there is an understanding of what Walking Dead is, right? Aside from the walkers and the zombies and all of that, that human drama, that kind of struggle for who's leading and who the power struggles and everything is at the core of The Walking Dead. And I feel like that leader scoring, where if you have more than one leader in one location, they'll eliminate each other is such a cool scoring idea, but also thematically really, really works on a Walking Dead level. So as a tile laying game, as a Walking Dead game, it's a nice compact package, and I really, really enjoyed it. Now, I do want to mention one other thing here, and that is the 6-card expansion here that is Walking Dead Surrounded Under Siege. And what this does, it adds 6 cards, and it also adds a new type of survivor here, which is the mercenary. And this is a really cool twist because the mercenaries will score 1 point for every walker at the location. So they kill all the walkers, and they score based on how many they kill. So it's a cool, different way to play where you want to bunch up all of your walkers in one spot and then put a mercenary in there and score points that way. So actually, I usually just like to play base games most of the time, but this is just 6 cards, and instead of playing with 18 cards, you play with 24 cards, and I really, really like the twist that the mercenaries add. So if this seems like something that's up your alley, definitely consider the Under Siege expansion. It also adds a couple different scenarios that play around with some of the different elements in this deck of cards. Really, really cool mini expansion. Totally suggest it. It also has some cool art there of some of the more Negan and the Factory and Dwight and some of those other characters. So again, as a Walking Dead nerd, it's cool to see those characters in that deck of cards there. And I do want to give a shout out. I mentioned that the art obviously is lifted from the comic book, but Milan Zakovic did the graphic design. So a lot of the actual layout of these different cards, and the red and the black and the white, they kind of stark different colors. It's really, really easy to read and readable. I like the design of these cards. I like how everything's laid out. The iconography is really easy to understand. Really nice graphic design. So actually using the art in an effective way is half the challenge, right? So I think that these cards are really laid out nicely, and just a quick shout out there, right? Just because a lot of the art is taken from the game doesn't mean that graphic design didn't have to go into this. So I do like how these cards look quite a bit. So if you're a fan of small card laying puzzles, check this out. If you're a fan of The Walking Dead like I am, check it out. And if you guys have any questions, be sure to let me know in the comments below, and let me know what your favorite Walking Dead character is. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video. Bye.